Shalawama, Shalawama, Islam to all the Moors. I'm DrYasapa from Zion Law School. All right, y'all, let's get started. Our volume is good. The signal is good. All right. So welcome. Welcome. This is the free astrotheology course. All right. Our textbook, I hope y'all can see it. The free PDF is in the description area of the video. Our textbook is the Zodiac and the Gospels. The Zodiac and the Gospels, the secret truth about JC the Christ figure, y'all. So why is the truth a secret? Why has it been kept a secret? Who knows about the secret? And then also what is the Zodiac doing in the Gospels? So what is the Zodiac doing in the Gospels? Okay. Take a look at it. I provided a link to the free PDF in the description area of the video. So if y'all want to use it, it's there for y'all. Okay. So just download it, print it, and bind it. The same way I've done this. You all do the same. That applies to any PDF that I post. Have it printed and bound. So you have a physical book, okay? So we are on page 209. Page 209. So let's go ahead and get started. Our subheading is the yearly cycle, y'all. Oh, my chair just broke. I'm gaining too much weight. Hey, scholars. So I haven't been going to the gym. How long is it? Since September. At least since September. My physical activity is almost none. And I've been gaining weight. And my clothes, oh my goodness. I've never experienced this before. My whole life I've been very thin. Muscular. Actually thin, but in my 30s I started lifting weights. I became muscular. And well, anyway, I'm gaining weight, and this is quite an experience. And my chair just broke. I don't know. I hope it. I don't. If I fall down, I think the leg just. Yeah, the leg. If y'all see me fall, you'll know it's because the leg came out of my chair. I need to buy a new chair. Oh my goodness, that is funny. Hold on, y'all. Let me see something. Oh, the screw popped out. The mic. Let me turn the mic. Let me hold on. All right, y'all, I'm back. Let's see how let's see how this live stream goes. I have to become more active before I'm going to exercise every day. And some days I would eat, some days I wouldn't eat. But my daily routine has completely changed since I had to take this job, and I literally work all the time, every day of the week, which unfortunately takes away from what I'm doing. But I'm doing the best I can. I'm working with it. So y'all bear with me. So let's begin. Okay, we're on the yearly cycle, page 209. The yearly cycle from Pisces to Aries. The yearly cycle from Pisces to Aries. So the year begins, or the yearly cycle begins with Pisces and ends with Aries. The Passover was celebrated at, quote, the beginning of the year. So some of us refer to this as the beginning of the natural year, y'all, right? Springtime, where there's regrowth and regeneration. Now, you should recall that the ancient Egyptians celebrated or recognized Virgo as the beginning of the year. So they recognized Virgo as the beginning of the year. Now, I saw something on a video, so I don't know if this is true, but I'll pass it to y'all. I don't know if it's true. So the scholar who said this, he said that the ancient Egyptians began their year with Virgo, and that Virgo at that time was in June. I believe it was June or July. And it was at that time where the Nile would rise up, the water levels would rise up and flood. Okay, so when the flooding took place, the soot would, be on the top of the ground. So you have a new layer of topsoil, and that would mark, or that was what was needed to begin the regrowth, okay, of plant life, the regrowth of vegetation. All right, so that would be equivalent to springtime with the melting of the snow in the north. But the interesting thing about this, or the curious thing about it, is that if Egypt is in the Americas, let's say the Memphis and all the big cities, the capital regions, were in America, in Mexico and North America, then we wouldn't have to have a discussion about the Nile over in Africa. Or are they talking about the Mississippi River in America? Y'all figure it out. Y'all decide. I'm just bringing these things up. Okay, I'm just bringing them up, bringing them to your attention. I'm not saying either one or the other. Okay, what I think is what I think. What's important is what you think, and you have to arrive at that on your own. The Passover was celebrated at, quote, the beginning of the year, end quote. You can check that out at Exodus chapter 12, verse 2. At the time of the equinox, so equinox, the root word in there is equal, right? 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night. So you'd have to ask yourself again, if the ancient Egyptians never sailed, if they never left Africa or the eastern part of Africa, and y'all should take a look and see what longitudinal line that's on. How would they know anything about equal hours of day and night? You'd have to go further down into the southern part of Africa. Okay, so these modern day boundaries that we've been indoctrinated with, they're not true, not correct. Okay, There's no way they could know all of the stuff they know about astrology. I'm talking about the Egyptians, if they were landlocked over in the eastern part of Africa, okay? Because all of the astrology information is coming from the point of view of North America, okay? This is where you have the 4 seasons. But anyway, also the solstices, right? Winter, summer, and winter solstices, okay? All right. So let's continue. The Passover was celebrated at the beginning of the year, at the time of the equinox, when winter is over and the new life of spring begins, when symbolically the sun disk in the side, the sun in the sky has quote unquote died and been resurrected. So remember, scholars, that the sun symbolically dies somewhere around December 21st, 22nd, when its movement can no longer be observed on a sundial. That's right, there's no shadow until 12 o'clock midnight, December 24th, which is the beginning of December 25th. At that point, 12 o'clock midnight, December 25th, the sundial, the shadow on the sundial rises a full degrees north. So now the sun is ascending, springing northward, ascending, springing northward. And it's said, scholars, that between December 21st or 22nd, up until December 24th, 12 o'clock midnight, that the sun walks sideways like a crab. It walks sideways like a crab, okay? Which is why there's no shadow being cast on the sundial. Now, the Christians, let me start with the Jews. Now, Jews means religion, okay, not a bloodline people. So the Jews recognize or celebrate the Passover according to the Jewish traditions. But the Christians celebrate the Passover as Easter, Christ's resurrection. Okay, and the religion that I was involved in for all of those decades, they call it the memorial. They call it the memorial. All right, but either way, it's the same stuff. The same stuff, in fact, with all of the major deities. They're all born or reborn, resurrected, or born on December 25th. And that's where that comes from. Everybody see that? Okay, now let's continue. The original Passover story is, on one level at least, a dramatic presentation of the new life that spring brings to the earth. A dramatic presentation of the new life that spring brings to the earth. Such springtime festivals, however, are not the preserve of the Jews. I think we did this already. I think we went through this paragraph in our last video because I remember this sentence. Throughout the ancient world, people would celebrate the returning sun with ceremonies which closely resemble Christian ones. Sir James Fraser has cataloged these and noted their common themes. They all have to do with a dying and rising, lowercase God, or a dying and rising king. I just spoke about that. So I'm not going to go into any detail. Y'all, if y'all want to know more about this, watch the last, the video that I did just before this one. There are dramatic presentations of the cycle of nature itself. So you can see that this involves nature. That's why you'll hear that the scriptures is an almanac, like a farmer's almanac, y'all. And it's been remixed by the dark priesthood, those people who want to enslave you. All right. And who are, in fact, having you in bondage right now. Some of you know you're in bondage, others don't. Okay. So they are dramatic presentations of the cycle of nature itself, in which we observe the emergence of new life from death. The sun dies on December 21st, 22nd, and decay. Organic material decays, right? The leaves fall off the trees, etc., in the fall and winter, and they decay, and they provide mineral nutrition for the plants and other vegetation, etc., in the spring. So y'all see how all of this is circular. It's the same story, same events. This is a cycle in which we observe the emergence of new life from death and decay. All right. The myths of Tammuz, Adonis, Osiris, Dionysus, Demeter, and Persephone are all of this type. And into death and coming back to life again. The end of one cycle and the beginning of another, winter to spring, Pisces to Aries. These stories are not to be dismissed as mere myths fit only for the entertainment of children. The fact that they are so widespread points to them being expressions of the deepest hopes and aspirations of all humankind. Now, I made the distinction in the previous video, and I will always make the distinction that when you see humankind correlated with Genesis chapter 1, with the kind of man that was created by the Elohim. Watch the video that I did. It's called A Critical Analysis of Genesis chapter 1 and 2. Okay, y'all go and watch that and you'll get all of that. Watch the video I did. Look for the thumbnail that has a Neanderthal hanging on a stake, and another video that I did on Zion Law School here that has a chimpanzee and an orangutan on the thumbnail. Okay, so watch those. Also look at the post that I did. I think it's a community post that I did with Han Uman. Okay, Han Uman is a half man, half monkey deity. I believe it's a Hindi deity. Okay, so it's my position that Han Uman is the created creature in Genesis chapter 1. Hence, human, y'all will remember that back in the 90s, we thought that that was metaphysical, having a metaphysical meaning of the man with hue or the man with color. We were wrong. That's a lawful designation, a colorable man, a kind of man, a symbolicum by definition. Y'all go look up color and colorable in a Black's Law Dictionary or any good law dictionary. Okay, and you'll see what color means. It's a fake, it's a knockoff. It's having the form, the look, but not the substance. So what is the substance? The substance is being autochthonous or sprung from the soil. That's the substance and the subject matter of the law. All right, that's a well-established principle in law, that land is the substance and subject matter of the law, and Moors are in fact land. Do you all see it? So that would mean that the Moors, no, I'm not talking about a group or religious organization, anything like that. I'm talking about autochthonous or indigenous. I prefer autochthonous, sprung from the soil, men and women who were sprung from the soil. Okay, that's the nativity. All right. In contradistinction to the Han Uman or the Paleolithic troglodyte or the Neanderthal, right? Whatever, however you want to refer to the created creature in Genesis chapter 1. So make the distinction whenever you read human, okay? Now, you could also extend this to human rights. See, human rights were given. Birthrights come at birth. Birthrights come at birth. And then we often as people, especially in North America, we used to be confused, right? Why won't they recognize our human rights? Or why can't we get to the United Nations and get some human rights or some human rights protection status? Well, there's the answer. Because you have birthrights which you have abandoned. And what are those birthrights? They're contingent upon you harmonizing your life and your mind with nature. Period. The Most High's laws, his commandments, if we speak that way, is natural law. Period. All right, period. Natural law. I've shown this in my classes. Anyway, let's continue. All right. To say that expressions of the deepest hopes and aspirations of all humankind. So here, I'm going to relate this to the hybrids, okay, to the hybrids. To say that they are originally metaphors drawn from the observations of farmers. So there's a connection to Farmer's Almanac, even though he didn't say it, all right, but that's a Farmer's Almanac, is not to belittle their spiritual significance in any way. So what does it mean by spiritual significance? I'm not sure how these Christians are defining spiritual. Okay. Is it a breath? What is the meaning of spiritual? And in particular, in this context. Okay, I'm not going to assume. See, if you begin to assume, you're drinking the Kool-Aid. All right, that's what they want you to do. You make it up. Assume. Use your imagination. Assume you know what they're talking about when they say spiritual significance. Why is that? Because they want you to use your imagination so that you can transport yourself, your mind, into their story, into their narrative, okay? And you're finished once you do that. Okay? So now let's continue. What Fraser says about the myth of Demeter and Persephone might be taken as applicable to all such stories. So this is the stories of all these deities, right? Adonis, Osiris, Dionysus, Demeter, Persephone, and Tammuz. Okay, so let's get into it. In the mind of the ordinary Greek, so y'all should know by now. Let me see, do we have, put some comments in the comment section, y'all. Y'all should know by now that Greek, or this country that liked the video, please share it. Y'all should know right now that this a nation that they're calling Greek or Greece is a made up entity. Okay, made up entity. In the mind of the ordinary Greek, the two goddesses were essentially personifications of the corn. So when you hear corn, you should be thinking Virgo, right? Because she has corn in her hand. All right. And that this germ, and that in this germ, that's the corn, the whole efflorescence of their religion finds simplicity in explanation. So in other words, it's blossoming. When their religion, I'm going to include Christianity and all of its forms, Christianity in all of its forms, or Catholicism in all of its forms of Christianity, including Islam. All right. They're saying that their blossoming can be found in this cycle. But we know when we look at this historically, we see that their blossoming was based upon warfare and papal bulls, unum sanctum, the doctrine of discovery, There, I think 2 or 3 more. They're on my YouTube channel, so y'all go watch them. And then in the U.S., when they had some problems with the Catholic Church, they created their own doctrine called manifest destiny. Okay, and these papal bulls and manifest destiny provided the legal principles, the legal framework for them to savagely murder and rob the autochthonous, indigenous, rightful heirs and possessors of the land. And they did this not only up and down the Americas, but all over the world. Okay, that was the basis for it, okay? All right, so we're not ignorant. We know the history. We know the tools, the mechanical tools that the Catholics and the priests used to torture people into submission and to turn away from science. Isn't that interesting? That they want the autochthonous people to turn away from science. Why? Because they want to put the whole entire world in the framework of religion. What happens if they put you in the framework of religion? Well, clearly you will be acting not in your own best interest, right? You'll be acting in the interest that strengthens, maintains the Catholic Church and all of their systems. So what does this say? You will be acting out of harmony with nature. That's what they want. You to act out of harmony with nature. Now, if you go against nature, the law of cause and effect will overtake you and punish you. Do y'all see that? The law of cause and effect will overtake you and punish you. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15 through 68, the curses. Okay? The natural law of cause and effect. I hope it's clear. I'm going to check from time to time for comments. I wonder why y'all not putting any comments in the. Is it because you don't understand? I'm curious. Why don't? Is it because it's new to you, or you're? I don't understand. But anyway, let's continue. All right. But to maintain this is not to deny that in the long course of religious evolution, that is, this religious evolution is a very sweet way of saying religious terrorism and conquest and torture. That's what we see in the history of it, okay? But to maintain this is not to deny that in the long course of religious evolution, and there's no separation between church and state, as I've just shown you, the doctrine of discovery, unum sanctum, manifest destiny, that all of these are religious in nature, and they drive, till this day, they drive the political system. This is why, if you're autochthonous, you are oppressed. That's why you're oppressed, okay? That's why everything you had has been taken away, and that's why you have no inheritance, because your inheritance has been taken away from you per the doctrine of discovery, per manifest destiny, okay? And where does the Pope get his authority? He says he's a vicar of Christ. He's a representative of Christ on earth until the Christ figure returns. Therefore, he exercises all power over the land and the wombs, according to Catholic doctrine. wombs of all animals. And they're looking at Genesis chapter 2, man and woman sprung from the soil, sprung from the land, therefore Moors, as animals. That's Genesis chapter 1, chattel. Y'all see that? That's the Genesis chapter 1 chattel. This is the commission that the Han-Umans, the Neanderthals, were given to subject, have superiority over, etc., etc., etc. Let's move on because I said I wasn't going to get into this. All right, let's continue. But don't drink the Kool-Aid. This sweet talk, religious evolution, is actually warfare, scandal, and trickery. All right, of the worst sort, using poison, poisoning people's water sources, killing off their food, lying, not keeping treaties, you name it. Read Deuteronomy 28, you'll see it. All right. But to maintain this is not to deny that in the long course of religious evolution, high moral and spiritual conceptions were grafted on this simple original stock. What is this simple and original stock? Is he talking about natural law? And blossomed out into fairer flowers. By fairer, is he talking about pale? Or is the original stock autochthonous Moors? Well, you decide. Or was it is it something else? You decide. But the point is, here's the point. But to maintain this is not to deny that in the long course of religious warfare and terrorism, high moral and spiritual conceptions. What are these high moral and spiritual conceptions? These are religious doctrines and ethical systems that when you follow them, separate you from nature. Do y'all hear it? Separate you from nature. Hence, you are out of harmony with nature. Y'all hear? When you are out of harmony with nature, you are disrespecting or dishonoring your ancient mothers and forefathers, right? You can check that at Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. You are not following the Most High's commandments as you've learned in your religious organizations, all right? You are not following the instructions of nature. Is it clear? Therefore, you get a big spanking. You get what? You move from being Genesis chapter 2, the rightful heir, the autochthonous rightful heir and benefactor of all land, energy, powers, cosmic and terrestrial, to being a servant. Civil liter mortus, civilly dead becomes your status. You become a legal entity. You are wearing the mask of a ens legis. You become a actor or actress in a play wearing a mask. Today you're a driver, also a father. All of these terms that have absolutely nothing to do with nature, but are written into their statutory law system. Okay? And therefore you become subject to the rules that they impose upon you without your consent. All right? And so they escheat you. They deny you due process of law, which is a birthright. Y'all hear me? It is a birthright. It's reflected in the U.S. Constitution, in the Constitution for the United States of North America, also in all of the state constitutions, which are estates, right? What else do they do? Not only do they escheat, but they hypothecate your property, your inheritance. They hit you with bills of attainder to keep you impoverished, to keep you on your knees, begging to a Christ figure or some other external deity for help. You see how they're controlling your mind? How are they doing it? By keeping you detached from nature. If you were to reconnect and harmonize your entire being, physical and mental, with nature, you would find that you do not need these external deities. Okay? You can recapture or reclaim your nationality. Invoke the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1836. Get your stuff back. All right? You can break the spell. You can break the spell on your own. This is Psalms 82:6. And you are all, quote unquote, God's son of the Most High. In other words, you all have a faculty in your mind that enables you to create your own reality. Whatever you believe becomes your reality. Okay? You begin to see that and know it. No longer will you find yourself praying to an external deity. Why? Because you can do it yourself. You know how to use your psychic or psychological powers, mind power. I'm not talking about magic. I'm talking about how to use your mind in the way it was intended to be used at birth. Start accessing, utilizing that faculty of the mind that creates your own reality due to your intention and mental focus. Acknowledging that you are the power, that you are your own savior. And as they say, if it is to be, it's up to me. Okay? And if it happens, it's because of me. I have ultimate control. Although I may not understand what happened or why it happened, but I do know that it is because of me ultimately, right? And what does that mean? That means that since you acknowledge your accountability, now you can take powerful action steps to prevent these things, number one, but actually more important than that, to create the reality, the future, the situation to do, be, and have what you want. But you'll never be able to do that in religion. You'll never be able to do it in religion. You'll always be looking for an external deity to do it for you. You will be in bondage. You cannot make the decisions and exit. Let me repeat that. You cannot execute the decisions that you want to execute in the status of a bondman or a bondwoman. All right? Anyway, let's continue. We got way off topic here. I still don't see anything in the comment section. What's wrong with y'all? Anyway, let's continue. I'm assuming it's because this is new to y'all. All right, let's continue. Above all, the thought of the seed buried in the earth in order to spring up to new and higher life. Now, y'all might be looking at this as vegetation, but not me. I'm looking at this as though it could be some other stuff coated. Okay, some other stuff coated. You know what? Yes, I remember I discussed this in some detail in the video prior to this, so I won't mention it. What my thought is that this seed has to do with the egg of the Moabite woman being impregnated with the sperm of the chimpanzee, according to more science history, okay? according to the more science, the origin of the pale faces. But it's not just pale faces, y'all. That's another story. Okay, not just pale faces. There are other hybrids. All right, let's continue. In other words, there are hybrids who don't have a pale face. They can have a dark face. Okay, now let's continue. So it's not a color thing. So let's continue. So that would be the seed, and this higher life may be pointing to the concept of evolution, where the pale faces are said to be the most recent creature to appear on the planet. Therefore, it is the most advanced, right? Y'all know that story, what they taught us in school, that BS. Above all, the thought of the seed buried in the earth would be the woman's or the Moabitess womb, her womb, right? So the impregnated egg implants itself on the wall of the Moabitess woman's womb. In other words, the seed gets planted into the soil, into the earth, in order to spring up a new and higher life. That's why I'm thinking it has a double meaning. It says in order to spring up a new and higher life. Y'all see it? If it's the organic vegetation, it's not going to be new and it's not going to be higher, right? It's going to be the same as what it was over the past million years or 10 million years or 5 years. It'll be the same vegetation, not new and not higher. But here, this says a new and higher life. That is evolution. Readily suggested a comparison with human destiny. This is the destiny of the hybrid. And strengthened the hope that for man, correlate man with Genesis chapter 2. The man sprung from the soil, the autochthonous man, in comparison to the human, the hybrid, Han Uman. Note, suggested a comparison with human destiny and strengthened the hope that for man, to the grave may be but the beginning of a better and happier existence. And suggested, let me repeat that, and strengthened the hope that for man, to the grave may be but the beginning of a better and happier existence in some brighter world unknown. Tell me that this is not what JC the Christ figure promised his apostles, that they would be with him in paradise. Tell me that this is not what Serapis or Serapis promised his followers, that after they expired, they would be with him in paradise. So in other words, your life on earth is going to be a disaster. But when you die, you're going to go to a brighter world, heaven, that you don't know nothing about. And neither did your ancestors know anything about this heaven that you die and you go to. This, my friend, is religion. This is the cause or the motivation to abandon your status as an autochthonous Moor, your rightful heirship to all land, energy, both cosmic and terrestrial, all resources. Abandon it, give it up, and consent to being a servant in religion. Yes, you abandoned your birthright, you dishonored your ancient foremothers and forefathers. We see this again is Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. We have prophets, for example, the prophet Noble Drew Ali, who first brought this to our attention in North America. All right, he brought it to our attention in North America. We're not Negro, black, and colored, or Ethiopian. What are these? These are bywords. These are bywords that bond you into slavery. Do y'all hear it? So you cannot be a Christian or Muslim. You cannot be involved in any religion if you are returning to the Most High, or if you claim that you have returned to the Most High. They're oil and water, they do not mix. Let me say it again. They are oil and water, they do not mix. You take one or you take the other. And you should remember the law of cause and effect. All thinking and activity out of harmony with nature comes with the consequence of it in proportion to the bad thinking. When I say bad, I mean that's the degree to which it is out of harmony with nature. Is that clear? The same thing holds true. All thoughts and behavior, all thinking and behavior in harmony with, consistent with nature, implements the law of cause and effect on your behalf to support you. Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 14. These are the, connotatively speaking, blessings. This is the material wealth. The material wealth and optimal health and peace, the shalom. This should be simple for everybody to understand. Let's continue. Let me stop for a minute. The quote, this quote was taken from Fraser, page 433. So y'all make the decision. What do you want? Do you want to harmonize with nature, follow the Most High's commandments, follow the Most High's instructions, as it were? Harmonize yourself with nature, your thoughts, thinking, and your behavior, including your diet. Or do you want to continue in religion and wear the mask and be in the darkness under the authority of the Dogon? That's right, y'all. Under the authority of the Dogon. When the Pope comes out or a Hebrew Israelite comes out and they have on their mitre hat, the Pope has the big one. He's the big fish. The Hebrew Israelite organization, they have a small one. It's so small they call it a mitre. He's the little fish in the pond. In their system, when they come out with that mitre or mitre on, they're presenting themselves as Dogon, representing Dogon. Why? They have on that head of a fish and a body of a man. All right. Actually, the Dogon entity is quite interesting because he has a head of a fish. He's a fish, but then you can look down and you see he has legs and feet. And he comes up out of the water, up out of the sea. That's right. Dogon or Annis walks out of the sea and he educates the masses in all of the sciences, okay, including civics. All right. This is what and then in the evening he goes back into the sea. Okay. All right. So when you see the theologians, the religious leaders, including the Hebrew Israelites, all right, when you see them come out there with that mitre or mitre on, know that he's presenting himself as a Dogon, as Oannes, and he is educating the people Educating them with what? Doctrine. Doctrine. Y'all hear it? Giving you a education in doctrine. He's not out there teaching you geometry, is he? No. They're not out there teaching you civics, are they? No. You know anything about nationality, natural law, common law? You don't know anything about that. Well, I'm not talking about anyone in particular. I'm talking in generally, y'all. Don't be offended, okay? No. Are they teaching you law? No. Are they teaching you linguistics? No. You're getting indoctrinated. This is why the Pope calls himself the vicar of Christ. All right? And every camp leader, church leader is in their organization the vicar of Christ. They are Christ's representative on earth. All right? They won't say it, but in practice, that's what they are. If they say it, y'all think that Christ said it. Right? That's why y'all argue over doctrine. That's why you follow those men and women. They are, in fact, vicars of Christ in your eyes, in their organization. So the Pope, the Holy See, S-E-E, the Holy See, the Pope walks out amongst the masses. His authority is the Holy See. Y'all should check that out. You should check out what is meant by the Holy See, S-E-E. Check that out. Doesn't that sound like C as in S-E-A? He has authority over the sea, S-E-E. And the Dogon lives where? Underneath the sea. Huh? They are both walking out of the sea, the seat of their power. Check it out. I'm going to do a video, y'all, in the future. In the near future, actually. Okay, I'm going to do a video in the near future explaining all of this. All right? Still, no comments. Okay, so Mark's gospel is one of these, quote unquote, fairer flowers. He has given the ancient pagan mythology a Jewish dress. But the garment is transparent, and through it, we can detect the limbs of Piscean death, rebirth themes, which had their origin in agriculture. But, let me repeat that, which had their origin in agriculture, but which have ever expressed the universal human hope. So whenever you see human, remember the Han Uman, the hybrid. The universal human hope that death is not the end. And y'all should note too that before we came into contact with Christianity, we were not afraid to die. Did y'all know that? Our ancestors were not afraid to die. It is the fear of death that has set us back due to Christianity. So this ain't got nothing. This doesn't have anything to do with us and our heritage, y'all. This fear of death. In fact, we were noted to be fierce fighters. We were not afraid to die. That's something that we picked up through Christianity. So, if the autochthonous people didn't have this fear, but the human has it, who are they talking about? Right? Clearly the hybrid. Now, I know I'm reading into it, and I'm telling you I'm reading into it. I'm looking at human as though it is a lawful term, as though this book, even this book, I've seen in many occasions where it has double meaning, okay? Or it can have double meaning. I'm eating mango. Let's continue. He has given, so Mark has given the ancient pagan mythology a Jewish dress. All right, so that's all those deities that we named. A Jewish dress meaning he's embedded it into Jewish culture and theology. But the garment is transparent. In other words, you can see through it. And through it, we can detect the limbs of Piscean death rebirth scenes. Okay, so in other words, springtime, right? That we've been talking about. Death, decay, and then rebirth, which had their origin in agriculture, but which have ever expressed the universal human hope that death is not the end. Now, y'all should also note that this concept of a soul that survives death, the S-O-U-L, that is of Catholic origin. The soul, S-O-U-L, that survives death and goes to hell and burns for eternity, if you don't do everything that the priest and the Pope tells you to do, your S-O-U-L will burn in hell. If you don't go fight in the wars, well, you're going to go burn in hell. If you don't do this and you don't do that, you're going to go burn in hell. All right? Some people, even amongst the Hebrew Israelites, I was shocked to find this out, are teaching about Dante's Inferno as being a depiction of what hell is going to be like. Can you imagine? But my point is this. We autochthonous people, we were not afraid of death. We never thought we were going to go burn in hell or go to heaven. Okay, that wasn't in our consciousness. This S-O-U-L is a device created by the Catholic Church. They took the Latin meaning of sun, S-O-L, soul, and threw a U in there. Why? Because the ancients believe we have something akin to a battery pack, a power pack. And when your energy begins to get low, well, you expire. That was common knowledge. So they likened the sun to a energy battery or power pack in us. So big sun in the sky, little sun in us. And they just threw a U in there. And they said that when your physical body expires, your soul, S-O-U-L, goes to heaven or hell, all dependent upon whether or not you do what the Catholic Church wants you to do. Their standards of morality, their ethical systems, which replaced natural law. Do you understand? Do you see the gravity of that? So they're going to have you doing and thinking completely out of harmony with nature. Why? Because it implements or executes the law of cause and effect against you. And you pray more to JC, the Christ figure, or whoever your external deity is. And guess what? You did it to yourself because nobody forced you, right? At that point, I'm talking about in the history later, like now, These religions aren't putting guns to anybody's head anymore. They're not putting a sword to your neck to force you into their religion, right? Everybody's doing it on their own now. So that means that you carry the burden of the karma. All right? You carry the burden of the karma. Now, you carry them, you're in other words, you're going to be more punished than they are by the law of cause and effect. That's my point. So let's continue. All right. So these things have their origin, this birth and this death and rebirth had its origin in agriculture, but which have ever expressed the universal human hope, that's a hybrid, that death is not the end, and that the ending of one cycle is the beginning of another. So maybe the hybrids believe. Now, I've often heard people say that that once the hybrid dies, it's it. Now, I don't know, but I have heard people, old people, say that when hybrids die, they know that they don't. This life is all they have. All right. I'm sure y'all have heard the same thing. If you come from North America, I'm sure you've heard the same thing from your grandparents and etc. Let's continue. So they desire to live forever, right? The hybrid wants to live forever. Okay. John's gospel has the actual image of the seed's death and rebirth. And JC saying, listen to this, y'all. John's gospel has the actual image of the seed's death and rebirth in JC's saying. So let's read that. Oh, we're an hour and 10 minutes into it. So after this, we're going to stop. Quote, this is JC. I tell you the truth. Unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. That's taken from John 12:24. In addition, both Matthew and Luke write of the, quote, sign of Jonah, end quote, clearly expressing the same Piscean death rebirth themes rather. Quote, then some of the Pharisees and teachers of the law said to him, Teacher, we want to see a miraculous sign from you. He answered, that's JC, a wicked and adulterous generation asks for a miraculous sign, but none will be given except the sign of the prophet Jonah. Okay, so he did give him a sign, right? He gave him a sign. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a huge fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. That's from Matthew 12:38 through 40. The absence of these sayings from Mark is rather puzzling, but the fact that they are found in the other gospels gives us some kind of clue to their meaning of all the resurrection stories, all right? So these are supposed to help understand what all these resurrection stories mean. The quote, great fish, end quote, the ketos is Pisces, into which Jonah, the Son of Man, and every man, that's capitalized E, and every man has to sink before emerging, quote unquote, reborn into the next cycle. Y'all got that? Listen to this. The great fish is Pisces, into which Jonah, the Son of Man, and quote, no, this is not a quote, and every man, the E in every is capitalized, to which Jonah and every man has to sink before emerging, quote unquote, reborn into the next cycle. the sun's emergence from Pisces to Aries, that's the orb in the sky, S-U-N, sun. The sun's emergence from Pisces to Aries at the spring equinox symbolizes the eternal longing of humankind or humanity, so you should be thinking hybrid, for resurrection to new life. Now that might be the longing for humankind. That might very well be the longing for humankind, but the humankind is Han Uman, that's a hybrid. Okay, so what do we know? Now, I don't know if this is so, but let me tell you what I think. Virgo, no, let me repeat this. Let me go back a little bit. When the House of Yasharala went into the promised land, all the farms had been prepared. All the buildings had been prepared. Everything had been prepared. All they had to do was move in. All they had to do was move in and say, okay, I want that land. That's mine. I like that house. Everything was prepared. They entered into a covenant of grace, y'all. They entered into a covenant of grace. That's the harvest. Everything was set up. It was all set up. No work, no labor, no preparation. Everything built. So is it, look at Adam. Okay, so Adam is said to have been sprung from the soil, autochthonous. And then he was brought in to the Garden of Eden. He was brought in. He didn't do any work. Everything in the garden was set up. Perfect for him, according to the story, right? No work. He entered into a covenant of grace. There's no story about him suffering and toiling and working before he went into the garden. No, he was made manifest from the soil. This is Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Then brought into the Garden of Eden, brought into a covenant of grace. Everything there, prepared. No work, no struggle, no suffering. And that is exactly how it is for man today. When you return to the Most High, you follow the natural laws. You enter into a covenant of grace. Everything is there for you, as long as you honor your ancient foremothers and forefathers. Okay, it'll be the same way for you. Now, the hope that we have entering into the covenant of grace, where everything is prepared for us, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1 through 14. Deuteronomy 28, verse 1 through 14, the covenant of grace. These are the blessings. We just walk into it, right? And when we are acting in harmony with nature, following the Most High's commands, Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1 through 13. When we are doing that, whatever we set out to do, the work of our hand will be extremely successful. In fact, more successful than our ancestors. Whereas the hybrid's hope, the human's hope is to live forever, leave this earth and go to heaven, or go somewhere and live forever. Y'all see the distinction? Is that the comparison that the author was talking about in the chapter? You decide. You decide. I'm only giving y'all my thoughts. I'm not a religious leader. I'm a thinker. And I'm sharing my thoughts with y'all. All right. The sun's, the disk in the sky, emerges from Pisces to Aries at the spring equinox. The spring equinox, y'all, is a covenant of labor. The covenant of labor. Okay, you got to work. And who are you going to work for? You're going to work for the corporations. Y'all see it? In the covenant of grace, you're not working for anybody. You chillaxing. Enjoying the fat of the land. All right. The sun's emergence from Pisces to Aries at the spring equinox, that's the covenant of work, the covenant of labor, symbolizes the eternal longing of humanity for resurrection to new life. And actually, we see that in their so-called sciences, don't we? They're always trying to extend, live forever, and these kind of things. Okay, but let's continue. The connection of these themes with the sun, the S-U-N sun, comes out clearly in Mark's narrative. The quote-unquote darkness of its Piscean sojourn is imaged in the darkness which covered the land from the 6th hour to the 9th hour, as JC hung on the cross. All right, so the darkness while JC was hanging on the cross, or just the darkness itself from the 6th hour to the 9th hour, this is symbolic of the darkness of Pisces, right? The darkness of Pisces. In other words, the evil and the wickedness of Pisces. Darkness is evil and wickedness. That's where devil comes from, right? The D from dark and the E and evil. So devil, okay? The darkness of its Piscean sojourn is imagined in the darkness which covered the land from the 6th hour to the 9th hour as JC hung on the cross. This is Mark 15:33. Isn't that interesting? 33. Isn't that interesting, y'all? The number 33, that's a Masonic number. And we all know that JC didn't hang on the cross and he didn't hang on the stake. He made his escape. In the story, it was Simon the Cyrenian who was hung on the cross. All right, we know that through linguistics. Let's continue. The cockcrow, which marks Peter's denial of JC, the Christ figure, is associated with the SUN sun, in that its crow announces the sunrise, and I know that for a fact, right? There's crows everywhere here. I know when the sun is about to come up because I hear the crows. I mean the roosters rather. And its coxcomb actually looks like a shining solar disk. Okay. And it is just possible that JC's troublesome cry of dereliction from the cross, y'all hear that? So this also is evidence that it was not JC on the cross, because JC was very zealous and energetic about serving the deity who he called his father. But the man or the entity that was hung up on the cross or stake, or who was hung up as strange fruit, in fact, if he was hung up as strange fruit, he could have never hollered, Elio, Elio, lama sabachthani, if he was hung up as strange fruit, okay? So that's a different character. That individual who was assassinated had a different character than the JC who we know of before having been hung up on the stake. That's another piece of evidence to show that JC was not the individual who was executed, okay? All right. And it is just possible that JC's troublesome cry of dereliction from the cross, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, given in Mark chapter 15, verse 34, in Arabic, and translated, my capital G-O-D, my capital G-O-D, why have you forsaken me, was originally a cross-language pun. Y'all see that? Cross-language pun. It has two meanings. Duplistic, duplicity, Pisces. Just as I'm bringing to your attention that these texts that I'm coming out of now, as I read them, I saw in more than one place double meanings of text. All right? So it has double meaning. Mm, that is so delicious, y'all. Really, really delicious. It's a fruit drink, passion fruit, and it still has the seeds, so I have to chew the seeds. Y'all should be aware, if you eat a watermelon, an apple, or anything like that, if you swallow a whole seed, it can, it has been observed that many patients who get acute appendicitis is due to a seed getting stuck and obstructing. Okay, and then there's an inflammatory reaction, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got acute appendicitis and you need an emergency surgery. So if you're going to eat a seed, make sure you chew them. Seeds have a lot of mineral nutritional value. So chew them and eat them. Of all places, the place where I learned that I should chew seeds and eat them instead of spitting the seeds out was in Poland. A friend of mine named Anna, a pharmacist, asked me, "Why are you spitting the seeds out?" And I told her, "Well, we always spit the seeds out." She says, No. Chew the seeds because they have a lot of nutritional value. Chew them and eat them with the fruit. You'll get used to it. And I've been doing that ever since. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so that dereliction, or that cry of dereliction, was originally a cross-language pun, which depends on the fact that the vocative of Helios, so y'all, Helios, Helios, remove the H, you get ill, E-L. You get ill. And you get os, I-O-S. Okay, so Helios, the Greek word for sun, is Heli, H-E-L-I-E. Matthew, in fact, has E-L-E-I, ill-E-I. I guess that's how to pronounce it. In his version. So y'all can check that at Matthew 27, verse 46. Solar reinforces, let me rephrase that. Solar references pervade the resurrection story. Very early, this is a quote from Mark 16:2. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise. Just after sunrise, y'all. They were on their way to the tomb. Sun is rising up over the horizon, Horus, right? They were on their way to the tomb. The first day, let me go back. I want to make a point. Oh, you know what? I'm going to end this. But I want y'all to know that Helios, remove the H and you get ill. Well, Helios is a word, Greek word for sun. Remove the H, you get ill. The ills or L's are a pantheon of deities. Okay, so what else are they? The eels are also a title for nativity in North America. For the Moors, the eels, E-Ls. They're not the deities, the pantheon of deities. Those titles are not that. Okay, so isn't it interesting that you have prophets and angels who suffix "il" to their names? Ezekiel, for example. How about Michael or Micah-il? Y'all check the prophets, y'all will see the suffix, in other words, EL at the end of their name. They're suffixing their names with EL. Okay, check that out. And the IOS is also a sun deity. If my memory serves me correctly, the IOS or the Ios is the rising sun over the river or something like that. Y'all check it. So here we see solar references. And we're going to pick up on page 211 in our next video. Islam to all the Moors. I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Be sure to support my project to write the book of the law back into ancient Ibaryath and also modern English. I'm going to take out all of the deceptions and lies, okay? All of the deceptions and lies, I'm going to add back in all of the cosmology, astrology, natural law, principles and concepts, all of the information that identifies who we are in terms of our nativity, okay? Everything that was taken out, I'm going to put it back. So if y'all feel it in your heart to support my work, my Cash App is $sign Dr. Yasapa. My PayPal is zionlawschool.me / no. My PayPal is paypal.me / Zion Law School. PayPal.me / Zion Law School. But the links are in the description area of this video. Everything that I do is because of my knowledge of linguistics. I've written many books on linguistics, on ancient Ibaryath, not religious stuff, not at all. It's linguistics, okay? So you must understand the linguistics, words, their etymological meaning, how the words are formed, their morphology, their function, part of speech, etc., etc., etc. You must understand the relationship that words have denotatively and connotatively with respect to historical events and mythology. Broadly speaking, this is philology, which most of our people have never heard of. So if you want to learn more, if you want to be able to do what I do, my books, links to my books are in the description area of this video. Make sure if you're going to buy my books, buy them on zionlawschool.org. Don't buy them on Amazon or any of the other online bookstores, okay, y'all? Buy them on zionlawschool.org because Amazon just takes way too much money. It's not even worth selling your books on Amazon because they take that much money. And they have the nerve to charge you fees. Okay? And if people don't buy your books, they're going to charge you fees, right? Higher fees. So it's not worth, don't buy it on Amazon. That's what I'm trying to tell you. All right? So support my work. I appreciate you. Thank you in advance for your support of my project to write the book of the law in ancient Ibaryath and modern English so that you can not only read it and comprehend it, but be able to do your own analysis. Y'all come to my Saturday class. at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everybody's invited. It's not going to cost you 1 red cent to show up and learn. Okay, it is free. Make sure you read it's not a free course. You can come several times for free. But if you want to enroll, you have to pay the tuition. But the tuition is reasonable. All right. But anyway, I'm Dr. Yasapa. Thank you for your time. And I will see y'all on the next one. Okay. Shalom and Islam to all the Moors.